Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Uncanny X-Men 337. Now, we are essentially done with the Onslaught event. However, there are two kind of like aftermath books that kind of tie into what happens and what leads into the next event, which is Operation Zero Tolerance and Heroes Reborn, which I thought are really good reads, so I thought that they were definitely worth mentioning. So let's go ahead and jump into this book. And here we still see that ugly, beastie looking Wolverine, which I'm so glad they finally retconned that eventually. But anyway, this book came out in October 1996. And I like that you see Logan and, kind of has that noir look, his face is shadow, which is a cool idea, just the beast part. But anyway, let's go ahead and see what he's talking about here. He goes, things change. People change. You, me, every one of us, every day of our lives. The day you stop changing is the day you die. So at first you think he's talking to the audience, you see the rain, so you know something serious is about to happen. But when you flip the page, you see that he's actually talking to Xavier. And he's kind of just giving him this pep talk. He goes, it's you who took a handful of mutants and dedicated your life to training us, to turning us into the X-Men. And, what's his name? Xavier's kind of having I don't know if I want to say existential crisis, but, because of what happened with Onslaught, he's not really thinking of who he was. He says, there's also Onslaught. There will always be Onslaught. And Logan's trying to say that thing was not you entirely. He was talking about how in X-Men 25, which I will get the review back up, saying how Xavier shut down Magneto's mind to save Wolverine. And Xavier here says, what is the expression? No good deed goes unpunished. And so this book is called Know Thy Enemy. And we see the destruction that Onslaught did back in an Onslaught X-Men book. So you see that the mansion is just completely trashed. And what I like, and a lot of people don't do this anymore, is where they kind of add the credits into the page, which really doesn't take away from the artwork, which I appreciate. So let's kind of look at them at Scott Lobdell writing, Joe Madureira doing the pencils, Townsend and Russell doing the inks, Comicraft doing the lettering, and let's see, Team Buccellato doing the colors, and Bob Harris, the editor. And I just really love this panel. And Xavier here says, in a single moment of profound arrogance, I did more to destroy all that we've worked for than the legion of adversaries we've faced since our trials began. So you can see that no matter what, and this is what I think is kind of funny is, Xavier has always been Logan's counselor. And then here, there's that kind of paradigm shift, for lack of a better expression, and Logan's being the teacher and Xavier's being the student. But, Wolverine's talking about how, I know what it's like to have a monster and have to control them. And Xavier's saying, us trying to keep our primal rages at bay is noble. He goes, don't try to equate your pain to my own. Don't seek to trivialize my experience by comparing it with your own. And so Logan's like, nice try, Chuck, but I ain't raising for the bait. I thought I was the original king of pushing people away. He goes, even without your mental powers, because Onslaught took them from Xavier, you're still good at head games, aren't you? We kind of get this ominous panel, and he goes, you have no idea. So I wanted to kind of just go through that because I just thought that was really interesting how it's Logan trying to bring Xavier back from the brink because he's taken on all this responsibility of how the heroes died and all that good stuff and how he's left his students in shambles. And then we jump into Bastion. Now, Bastion, his cameo was in X-Men 52, and he fully appeared in Uncanny X-Men 333. And so, like I just said a moment ago, those videos will come back up eventually. And what we're seeing is the aftermath of the Onslaught event where 90% of the Avengers, all the Avengers and the Fantastic Four died. At this point, during the Heroes Reborn, the only non-616 character I think that's still alive is Spider-Man. Now, if we remember during the Onslaught Marvel Universe, Nate said that, he pointed out that people will blame mutants for what happened. And then this is where we jump into Graydon Creed, and it says right here he's a candidate for the President of the United States. So you can see that he's kind of going on his big political spiel, talking about, when are mutants going to be held accountable. And, Peter's taking photos of it because he knows that Graydon's full of crap, but everyone's eating it up. And we know that Graydon's only using this as political points and not because he actually cares about what happened. And we see more about Creed later on, but let's not get into that. Now, that's about the extent of world building and event building that happens in this book. Now we jump into the X-Men and what they have to deal with. So the alarm goes off. Cyclops actually blasts it, and he goes, "That's mature." And so we just seen him trying to get ready and for the day. And he goes, "For an instant there, things almost felt like they were normal again." And he goes, "As if anything in my life has ever happened that I can use as a guideline for normal." Because the X-Men just do not have what we call a normal life. They die, they go to space, and just hated because of what they are. He even says in a moment, I don't know where it's at, but he's like, "I don't understand what..." Oh, here it is. "The rest of the world will still want to kill us all, just because we're different. Someday, I just want to know, different from what?" So that's very poignant. I like that. Now we see Beast here in the background, and if we remember through the Onslaught event, Beast was kidnapped by the Age of Apocalypse Dark Beast and was usurped or, captured. Now he does eventually escape, and if you guys want me to do a review over X-Men Unlimited number 10 where Dark Beast actually kidnaps Beast, let me know down in the comments. But here he's actually trying to say, "Hey, look, I'm back." And Cyclops there for a second thinks this is Dark Beast again, and he zaps him. And this is funny. He goes, "Inconceivable. For weeks as my deviant doppelganger delighted in deceiving you, you never laid a hand upon the so-called Black Beast. Finally, I leap, bound, and bequeath you with my presence, and this is what I get? Zap! Sorry, Hank, you startled me." Imagine how I felt. I was expecting the more sedate solution of, "Morning, Dr. McCoy. Aren't you looking particularly blue this day?" Zacked. And so he's talking about how everyone's on edge. And Hank's stuck in the tub. Now, real quick. See how even though Cyclops zapped him, Hank uses sarcasm in kind of a jokey way. And this is why we always love Beast, because he even does this in the face of danger. This is why I do not like the Krakoa Beast, because he's cold, calculating, and even murderous, and that this hashtag not my X-Men. But anyway, they welcome Beast back into the fold. Bobby sees the reunion, pulls a trick on him, so Scott and Hank both flap back into the tub. He's like, "Oh, I get it, it's the danger tub." And so Cyclops does something to him. You want to know what it is? Read the book, because I don't want to spoil a lot of what happened with Onslaught. And then we cut down to Petro and Jean. And I'm not going to spoil what happened with Petro and his wife. But, yeah, it's really sad. And so there's just like a nice tender moment between Jean and Petro. And then Betsy enters. And now, as the Onslaught event went on, I saw that Lobdell was trying to build up this thing going on with Warren and Betsy. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that had to do, because they're still mentioning it. So if I'm missing something, please let me know down in the comments, because I'm still a little lost in all that. All I know is it has to do with the fallout of something that Betsy had to do with Sabretooth. So I'm going to skip the stuff with Bastion, because I don't want to run it. And then after we get those kind of moments of laughter, we go back to Xavier and Logan. And I like that Wolverine says, he goes, I thought I could take on the entire world all by my lonesome. I was wrong. When you very first asked me to join the X-Men, I said yes, because I thought this was my way out of Department H. But there's a reason I stayed. One reason. You. Me and a lot of other people, Chuck, we hate to think that you just pulled one over on us. So, Logan's really given Xavier something to think about. And now what I like here is, even though this issue kind of has like a bitter sweetness to it, where we kind of see everybody coming back together, trying to joke in the aftermath of all this seriousness, there's still some cool down and whatnot. So I like that Lobdell kind of goes the Chris Claremont route, where he would do a big event, and then he would have a cool down issue of like the X-Men playing softball or something. And this is kind of the equivalent, but something major, just happened. So there's a lot of trauma that everyone needs to work through. And so that I like, again, even though there's like bittersweetness, there's still a jokes. And even Beast, they say grace, and he goes, thanks for everything. Amen. So I like that, even though there's a lot of trauma and pain that everyone has to work through, Beast is able to still say thank you for everything. So I thought that was a very apt ending on that part. So yeah, Uncanny X-Men 337. I remember when I first read this, and when I was a kid, there wasn't comic shops that stayed around for long in my hometown. So I read these out of order, and I remember reading this, and I was like, well, what's going on? I still enjoyed it because, it was the X-Men kind of coming together and whatnot. But now that I kind of been able to read this sequentially, this issue means a lot more, especially the moments with Logan and Xavier. So with all that said, if you guys have enjoyed this comic, please make sure to first support your local comic shop and see if they have this comic in stock. If not, then you can go hunt around, see if any private collectors, etc., so forth, have it. And if you guys have enjoyed this review, we definitely appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Xavier bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys can come to the channel, and we love to hear your feedback and thoughts down in the comments below, or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links in the description below as well. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.